Hey guys, back with another Echoing Thoughts podcast here, episode number 64. And we got a banger of a video. Once again, I got two guests coming through. Knuckle, number one Shade, 46, 47 mil cap Shade in my main team. And then Edward, the GOAT, Nightwalker, first full 70, first 50 mil cap player in the world. Um, yeah, great discussion talking about Nightwalker Remaster, Shade, Rebalance, talked about some things with the meta, alt story, just a lot of great discussion from from some of the smartest players in the game, from the best players in the game, from doing it for a long time. So long overdue. Hopefully trying to get more guests through, but I hope you guys appreciate this one. Show some support to them. I'll link their channels in the description below. But yeah, comment below if you guys want other guests, other things to talk about. Love answering questions. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the conversation with Ed and Knuckle. All right, we're back and got a special episode today. One kind of long overdue, but we got two guests here. First one we got is Edward, also known as Gimme Apso, also known as Trufflelock's E, Trufflelock, I don't know, Trufflelock, whatever. Number one Nightwalker in the game, full 60, 50 mil cap now. Number one, pretty much biggest whale in the game, Edward. And then we also got number one Shade, Homeless, aka Knuckle, aka Trufflelock's K. We got Primo in the house. Thank you guys. First of all, thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it. I know it's a big ask.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Yeah. So we'll kind of jump into it. I wanted to start with Ed. Kind of wanted to hear. I love talking about backstories and how the nostalgia of the game is something that brings us all together. I wanted to hear your backstory. What got you into mobile, and ultimately, what made you choose Nightwalker as your kind of main?
I actually started a lot later than both of you, I think. I started during COVID. So I was still at university at the time. And I love Maple Story, but that grind of like manually training the levels was just too much for me. And then my sister said that there was auto battle for Maple Story M. And then I dove my head into it. And then we've been playing since then. And
Your sister played?
yeah, she's very free to play. Like she doesn't even buy crystals, but
Oh, she still plays?
yeah, she still plays.
Oh, damn.
She got like 3 accounts to 200 from free to play. So
Oh,
yeah, she does her dailies and everything, but she just doesn't do anything else.
oh, I didn't know
But yeah, I do everything.
that.
Sometimes you just want to test the limits of the game.
Yeah. What about
What do you want to say?
no Nightwalker?
So Nightwalker. Originally I was actually a Phantom. I started this game as a Phantom, and then I re-rolled to Night Lord. And at the time, Covert was party. Like it had to be a set team for Covert. So that's why I re-rolled from Night Lord, because Night Lord was like a single target thing, and Covert was just a lot better with Nightwalker. So everyone told me to re-roll. And then after a month later, it changed to single target, and I was actually really pissed about that. But
Yeah.
like looking at the progression and the timeline of Nightwalker's V4 and everything, it just shows that it was the right choice.
Yeah. So that was what was that? That was that when
I think that was 2019,
so that was
2020.
before fifth job?
Yeah, it was before fifth job. Yeah.
Oh wow. Stuck it out, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Primo?
I started playing PC Maple like very young. Funny enough, it was like during beta of Global before it was officially released, and I was a wizard. Funny enough, there was a mace that was like had strength in it as well, so I spec'd into that. It was the dumbest move ever, but it was beta anyways. But who cares? Um, uh, when MSM was coming around, it was supposed to be like just to pass time while I wait for Maple Story 2. But I don't know. I just stuck to it, and also play MS2 as well. But when I think it was early access for MS2, I played the hell out of it that I got so bored I stopped playing that game altogether.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I just stuck to MSM. And how I came about to be a shade, funny enough, I re-rolled so many times. I was a Night Lord when it first game released. When Cygnus came out, I was a Nightwalker as well. To brag, I was the first 120 Nightwalker in Scania, so it was a fun race amongst another Nightwalker. We were just friendly banter.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Don't be ashamed. You beat him. It's fine.
I beat him. Yeah, I was a whale. Yeah, shit. But then I got bored of Nightwalker because like in SF 144, you used to get one shot left and right. So I just couldn't stand it any longer. So when Phantom came out, I jumped ships. And when Phantom started becoming mediocre, it was fun in the beginning because it was like very versatile. Yeah, all these skills to steal. It's fun to theory craft. But at the end of it, I got sick of it constantly having to change skills for this certain content, that and that. And I jumped around being an archer here and there. And I started a second account, right? And it was just an alt account. It was a hero at the time. And I created a buck on it. That buck became the main on that account. And when Shade was coming out, I full sent it. Not knowing what it did, didn't really care. And here we are now.
Damn. Yeah, it's always crazy to hear people's kind of backstory, how like rarely ever is that first character your main, the one you stick out. And I'm always curious, what did you guys ever think about re-rolling off? Like for me, I've always had a hard time sticking to a main. Like I always felt like I just lost interest very quickly. I was curious if you guys ever thought about re-rolling again, or what made you, or you guys always just kind of found it once you stuck with your main, your shades and your nightwalkers, that was it?
You can go first, Edward.
I'm probably one of the worst examples because I actually have like 4 alts that are pretty high level. So
Yeah.
yeah, so of course there's always temptation, right? When you see like damage chart of this class and this team structure with this class is does so well, you just want to reroll and test it out. I was one of those who try to like jump ships multiple times. I have a 240 something Kaiser. I have a 240 Paladin. And what else do I actually have?
You have a
You got your
Phantom.
Phantom.
Oh, I have a Phantom that's almost 250. So it's every time I reroll, I always make a new account because I don't like having all the high characters on one account.
Yeah.
Because you can technically use it for other purposes. So I try not to re-roll because of the time gate that you speak of. There is definitely a time gate in this game, and once you re-roll, it's just you're so far behind you can't really catch up anymore.
Yeah.
So I try not to re-roll, but if I do have the opportunity to, and like if I gain back the same levels, I would re-roll, but not at current meta.
Yeah.
As for me, I don't ever see myself re-rolling ever again. But although after yesterday, Buck was fun. Because it was something fresh, right? Something I'm not used to.
Yeah.
But I don't like the idea of re-rolling. Reason is because it's hard.
Yeah.
There's all these accessories you've gotten, you spend so much, and it's not transferable. It just sucks. And starting from scratch again is always the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm curious, Primo, what about pirates did you like, or did you not really think about classes and you kind of just went off of the individual class? Because I know, like, for me, I've always been like, thief always fit my play style. And then I would go to warrior. I wasn't really a mage or like an archer, but I don't see too many people that are like Pirates classes. What was it just about the shade? I mean, you like the Bucks as well. Is there something about the pirate class in general that you found interesting?
No, it was just uh out of the blue. I'm like, I'm done being a win archer. I'm re-rolling.
Yeah,
That was basic. That was the end goal. I mean, that
yeah,
was the end of it. It's what I just re-rolled,
I see.
and I just stuck to it.
Yeah. All right. Well, so then we'll kind of just we'll just talk about. I was going to talk about it later, but since we already talked about the time gated stuff and the alts and things like that, one of the biggest topics that we see in feedback, or we've talked about it before, was just how hard it is to re-roll, right? How it obviously deters people from just understanding the amount of effort, resources, the time gated stuff. Do you think that like that aspect of the game is something that I guess is intended, right? Like to kind of allow the veteran players that have been stuck to their classes, their mains, to have that edge over newer players? Or do you think that they should possibly, you know, as a way to bring in new players or bring more excitement to the game, that they should offer up some sort of re-rolling um, change? Because I think in PC, I forget what it's called, but they have, they can re-roll pretty easily. Like Explorer classes, I think, are able to re-roll. But do you think that's something that they intended for veteran players to, just have that edge forever, um, to benefit people that auto battle, or do you think that they should dabble with the idea of, you know, allowing people to re-roll once with the matching symbols, matching levels, and all that things? What do you guys think?
If they put it into like a cash app or something for a hefty amount, I probably would just to play a different class. If it's only once, it has to be like a one in a lifetime change that you
Yeah,
want a class you want to play.
yeah, yeah.
But I it's not easy, right? Like for example, right now all these new content is coming out with AF related
Mhm.
restrictions.
Yeah.
Uh they just have to put more ways of obtaining symbols. That's all it comes down to, or how fast they can progress, how fast they can level now.
Yeah, because I think I was talking to there was that new paladin that hit the Absol weapon, and his like he just started obviously, so he has so many like avenues to get through, right? And then Holy, the other paladin from
Mhm.
Dawn, he was just telling me it was his 1 year anniversary tomorrow or whatever, and he just got to 235, right? And so it's crazy like to think like if you're a new class, like when Warren was playing Sia, it took him over a year just to get to 235. It just feels like if you're trying to advocate for all these new classes, people to play and test out them, there should be some sort of incentive,
Mm.
maybe not for like, everyone, but if you're trying to play this specific class to, I don't know, maybe allow for burning event to go to 200, or like a cash, some sort of package to even
Mhm.
burning event higher, right? Like, 'cause even though it's easy to get to 200 now, like in what, a week or less than a week, it's 200 isn't anything anymore, like you still
Yeah.
have to get like there's so many checkpoints to get catch up in symbols and catch up in like 215 isn't even anything anymore, right? 220, it's pretty challenging.
the, the new classes itself is hard to be showcased because no one wants to reroll.
Yeah.
And when they do reroll, and then the people that reroll of like fully decked out gears from the same class,
Mhm.
and they're not seeing results, they're probably just gonna quit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I feel like that's something that maybe, you know, hopefully they figure out in the future. But currently, in the meta right now, right? Nightwalkers just got their remaster. Shay's just got a big buff. Ed, what do you think? Can you just talk about a little bit of the changes that Nightwalkers had, and what things you liked and maybe things you didn't like um, about Nightwalker?
So one of the big changes is the bats. They changed the bats into two different skills. One's a single target and one's a multi-target. Um, as far as that change, I'm not really a big fan of it because I there's always this little preset bug that always turns off your bats, and if you're not paying attention to the front of your bar, the buff bar, you might miss it. Especially when you're bossing and you have like 18 buffs on, because I buff everything. Uh, when you're at the end to watch fair trade, you're not going to see in the beginning of the bar what you have, and
Yeah.
when the bats are all like always in the front, you're not going to see if it's like procking or not. So that's one change that I didn't really like about it. But the next change is the attacking while you gain HP back. That's one change that I thought it was amazing. That feature was on PC for a long time, but I guess they didn't port it over. So having that being ported over, I think it changed what like ranking I would put Nightwalkers at. Because when I was looking at your ranking charts, you put Nightwalker at like 21 to 30.
Yeah, yeah,
At at the stats that you were talking Nightwalker about, I would agree with you.
hmm
But at my level, I wouldn't agree with you
yeah.
because even at my level with 74 KPA and 50.7 mil cap, I still don't cap my clones.
Yeah.
So there's always extra buffers for me to improve my gear. And without me capping my clones, I'm still one of the top players in DPS. So just giving me that extra room and self heal, it lets me do more things without relying on other people. Because back then when we were doing Damien, I always yelled at the bush up to heal me because I just couldn't survive.
Yeah.
But now I could just survive more things. It allows more avenues to like do random stuff. Like I could pump art without relying on anyone. I could just brute force everything and have my own heals, and I just don't need to worry about anyone.
Do your heals go through even when you're like doing orbs? Like the bats, do the bats heal you as well?
So yes, because I constantly attack when my V3 clone is no V2 clone is on the
Mm,
other side of the map.
yeah.
So if I'm attacking like that, it heals me. So it keeps me from dying. Because back then I always died with orbs. Like I couldn't out heal it. But now with the extra heals, it just let me survive a lot longer.
Does Omen heal you too? Like those the
Uh
Omen procs?
yes, because it procs bats.
Oh, so the bats are the
Yeah.
healers. Gotcha. What?
But Omen doesn't last that long. When you're orb, that duration is probably gone by the time you're Omens.
Yeah.
When you cross over, so you're not really relying on Omen. You're just relying on your clone.
What is the is it hard to keep up that attack speed buff? It's pretty long, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Or
pretty long. I just
okay.
keep spamming Quinn and it just stays up forever as long as you spam it.
Because I thought it was 10 seconds, but it's like more like 60, right? Or 30?
Oh, I actually
It's
don't pay attention
but
to the speed because
it's
it's
easy.
always there.
Yeah.
You really don't see it disappear.
Yep. So Primo, what about shades, right? That you guys only had that fox spirit change, but it's pretty big, right?
Um, I mean, like I said, as you said in your video, 17K lines. I mean, whether I have proof or not, but it's very RNG,
Yeah.
right? So one day, like in GXP, for example, right? So that day when I streamed and I did 707 bill, I haven't been able to get to it close ever since. Maybe because it's BR, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't matter in GHP, right? So it's very RNG. But I still like it because it kind of keeps the game fresh for me because it makes more motivation to damage chase, try to beat you, Edward, Truffle Lock X,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's always nice. I
So
mean,
do you
go
think
ahead.
where I had shades in the class ranking a little too premature, or do you think they're in a pretty good spot?
But you always put in well, I'm not trying to be
Mhm.
biased, but um, I would agree it would be there because it brings so much utility, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You mentioned split, you mentioned crit res. Um,
I mean, just to
Unfortunately, split is gonna change because they already have it in KMSM.
yeah, yeah.
It's gonna eventually come to us. It's gonna
Mhm.
be a 90 seconds cooldown moving forward. But hey,
Yeah.
It is what it is.
But I also like that you guys have like you guys does your own heavens door um it's separate from bishops, right? Like so it's an extra one or no?
It's separate.
Separate. So you have that and then you also have like I mentioned your backstep is insane.
Spirit guard. Yep.
Spirit guard, that shield, yeah. And you guys have self heals with death something, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't really do much, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, as you see the healing charts from Fouls,
Yeah.
it doesn't really do much.
No. Okay. Yeah. I mean, would you guys say like let's start with your Primo. Do you think shades are like if someone were to ask you, you know, would you recommend shade? Like would you say that they are like worth playing and like does it matter? Do they shine better as like a free to play compared to other classes, middle tier, like or um as like the highest end game? Or do you think it doesn't matter? Like do they excel in certain situations better than others? What would you say to someone that's like just asking about Shade if it's worth playing?
Shades as a free to play is actually very friendly because they don't have much like buffs that you need to put on pets, right?
Mm.
You can live without a lot of those stuff. Um, so without having to spend on pets, it's a very friendly free to play class. Plus, bomb punch hits pretty hard, but it's slow. But if you're struggling to survive in like 144 or something, right? You would put that on because that would keep you alive.
Mm.
Uh, I don't know about now, but that's how it worked back in the day. If you can't survive, use bomb punch. That's what people would say.
Versus Spirit Claw, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And what about you, Ed? Do you think I know Nightwalkers are clone class, right?
Mhm.
Are they how would you assess them as like a free to play? Or if someone were to ask you, Nightwalkers worth
Uh,
it? Are they good?
Personally, if I was free to play or even a mid tier player, I would not choose Nightwalker over the other Divs like Shadow or Phantom. It's just that when you I've played multiple tiers of Nightwalker. I've played 40 mil cap Nightwalker. I've seen 30 mil cap and 20 mil cap. And
And
the
50 mil.
low,
And 50
yeah,
mil.
and 50 mil. But the lower you go, especially when you see the PA, right? The lower PA a Nightwalker has, the worse you see. Like we know in our, I'm not trying to call names, but in our
Yeah. And I run
Damien team,
our
we
team,
have
yeah.
two Nightwalkers, technically speaking, right? We got 150 and 130. And you could see the gap is actually really huge.
Yeah.
Uh, You can't really, unless Nexon finds a way to give more symbols through events, because in PC they give out symbols like nothing, but for some reason in mobile they don't give you symbols at all. Like you have to like grind for it. So unless they give you free P symbols for PA, you have to like get gear for it, and it took us a while to even get an absolute weapon, let alone like other people who have to slowly grind for it and then hit it.
Yeah.
I'm just lucky that I have alts that can help me carry and afford weapon attempts. But for normal players and free to play players, there's no chance for you to, not no chance, but it's slim to none to get an absolute weapon and to get enough PA to reach the level where you're capping your clones and make it utilizing everything a Nightwalker has.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you do you agree that would you say that Nightwalkers are I think I had them ahead of dual blades because of their self heals, ahead of
Yeah.
Night Lords, but would you say they're a tier above them, kind of the same tier? What would you say? And then obviously a tier below Shadowers and Phantoms, right?
I don't know about dual blade because if I remember correctly, they have multiple iframes. But as far as I'm aware, Nightwalker only has Dark Sight. I don't know if they have something else. So I
Yeah.
would definitely put them above Night Lord at the moment.
Yeah.
But dual blade is kind of hard to say, especially when dual blades V skills are so like fluid. They can burst really well without relying on Omen, which we rely on stationary targets.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I mean, other than us having heals, I think that's the only thing that we have above dual blade. But everything else, I think the dual blade kit is a lot better than Nightwalker.
Yeah, that's true. Dual blades have like their best skills. You can have huge
You can
range
move, yeah.
and you
You
can do
could
it and move.
attack,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Primo? How do you think? I mean, how would you rate like Shades in comparison to other pirate classes? Kind of if someone was trying to re-roll or something.
Um, it's hard to say because I don't see them very much, unfortunately, because it's practically non-existent here in Ascania at least. We don't I can't really say much on that, but I would say we are Shade's not the number one knuckle user, as I would say.
What is that?
Speaking of knuckle users, just
Thund-
knuckle.
Thunderbreakers? What is the
I
other?
would say Thunderbreakers,
Is
arcs are
Arc?
probably stronger.
Hmm.
But they're just straight DPS, right? I
Yeah.
mean, but as you say, Thunderbreaker, they carry timely, quote unquote, which they don't.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about, I think one of the biggest, you know, factors, or one of the things that us three kind of emphasize now that I've learned from you guys, honestly, is, the importance of alts, right? For me, it's like, fresh, like they're all different. Like when V4 comes out, you're gonna have all these classes that you can get excited for, right? It's not just
Mhm.
one class.
Yeah.
Rebalances, like multiple classes, one class, like it's always exciting. And I always recommend alt story. What for you guys, right? You guys have alt at the highest level. Um, what kind of what would you tell someone that, I guess, is trying to progress, the most financially friendly, um, sustainable way, right? I think alts also help with kind of that burnout, right? Like,
Mhm.
what would you say to someone that like is trying to get into alt story, or trying to level up multiple um, characters and eventually progress to um, getting multiple characters at, maybe not end game, but at least like close to end game bossing?
Do you want to start first, Edward?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about bringing your alts to bossing level, at minimum, I would have one supporter class,
Yep.
like either a phantom or a paladin. I think right now both of those classes are very free to play friendly, and I think before the crit res change, paladin was one of those classes where you can actually have a leeching paladin in arc and still be fine. So I mean, I, it's very hard to recommend alts right now because of Legion as well. Because if you're talking about bossing, you definitely need to keep your Legion up, and Legion in this game is actually really expensive.
Mm.
Unless you're doing, even if you're doing the free to play method, you're still allocating a lot more resources than you should be, and when you're trying to upgrade your main as well, you can't really multitask like that to be extremely efficient. So I mean, the only way that I can see it for free to play or mid tier player is try to have a support class. We kind of see a Gnosis using like really, I want to say shitty shade, but like low cap shade, and they could still do lucid because of their split. So
Mhm.
it, you have to just find a class that is utility wise is very good for team, and it'll probably work out well. But other than that, I don't see a DPS class being a really good alt
Yeah.
unless you have the wallet for it at least.
Yeah.
Guess it really comes down to for when you're trying to create a second character or alts, you would have to make a decision whether you want to allocate resources into that character or not, right? Because if you if your end goal is trying to do a certain boss, you're gonna have to put a lot of work into it,
Yeah.
right? You have to deviate your resources from your main if that's what you want to do to your other character in order to do this content. But I typically don't really allocate a lot of resources. At most, it's probably just nodes for it.
Yeah.
I like you know I have multiple
Mhm.
accounts characters, and I invested in nodes because so they can for farm at AF 170 more efficiently because so faster you kill, the more quote unquote mesos nodes you get.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the like the misconceptions, or like when people see us playing, me playing my Demon Slayer, my Paladin, um, people don't understand that, I've had those characters for a while, right? I
Mhm.
mean, yes, we do like allocate resources from our main and such not, and like invest in them, but I think
It
like
funnels back, yeah, eventually.
Mhm.
it does, right? And I think the most important thing is like the best advice I could give is like don't look at like right now as like when you want to get into bossing, right? Unless you want to, time is money. But like
Mhm.
look like after V4. Like for my Demon Slayer, right? I was trying to, my goal when I started to gear it was to try and get to like hard Damien or get to a certain gear level by V4, right? Because I knew that rebalance was coming, right? That V4 was coming. So like the cap that was, or the gear that was required today is not what is required 4 months down the line, 6 months down the line. And when you start to
Mhm.
think of it that way, like it doesn't seem as like impossible. It doesn't seem like
Yeah.
such a hard task, but like as long as you start to like you don't forget about it, right? You start to like put some resources every month, right? Do your events on it, make sure you um try to improve it in some ways, like build your CDD armies or whatnot. Um right now it's tough, right? Like to get it so quickly, but the requirements to boss come easier and easier, right? Just what 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 Lotus was like the same time last year or whatever, or Damien, it's not what it's going to take today versus after V4. So I think that still it's very like we're getting multiple stones, right? Lotus stones. We're getting even arc. Like if you're getting arc, you get multiple opportunities at primals. Um, it all pays itself back eventually. Um, but yeah, those support classes and kind of just having that mental timeline of not really of kind of pacing yourself. It gets easier to um, clear stuff when they start having more rebalances, more updates, and things like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I guess talking about that, right? The rebalance happened. Eight classes got rebalanced or whatever. Um, what do you guys, when I did my class rankings in last pod, it felt pretty difficult, kind of to order some classes, right? There's a lot of great classes out there. Do you think that the game is more balanced than it was like a year ago? Do you think that it's in a good spot? What is your take on, the current meta as far as class balances? And I guess Ed, what do you think? What do you think is something that, if anything, you're expecting next, based on what PC, KMSM, to help rebalance the game even more?
Mm, uh, honestly, half of the classes that you put on your list, I've never touched, so it was
Yeah.
hard to understand, right? Because
Hmm.
if you don't play a class, because I don't play mage, I hate mages,
Yeah.
so I have no idea how to play a mage. But some people like Sanford, he has 50K lines. He makes his mage work out well, and he beats me most of the time. So uh, as far as that, I don't know. I feel like right now every class is, you can do content with every class. There's no like restrictions. As long as you have the range, like the cap for it, you can be put in any team, which I like that, because back then, if you weren't there was always a support, and then there was a bishop, and then few DPSs, and then you have to fill it in with making it work. But now it's like we're at that point where you can technically grab like 7 DPS, one paladin, one bishop, and just do whatever you want now. So I think in that sense it's balanced, but right now I it's hard. I can't say there's one class that is completely shit and one class that is really good.
Yeah. What about you, Primo?
It's hard to balance the game in general, right?
Yeah.
If you think about other games, like the games are like, let's take Call of Duty, right? A gun would be, in meta for a few months, and that can change, right? It gets nerfed, a new gun comes up. Now that's meta, right? It's never, it's endless.
Yeah.
So it's never gonna be easy to balance a game out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's
Someone's always
always
going to
gonna
be.
be someone's gonna get shafted and like, oh,
Yeah.
my class sucks.
Yeah.
But eventually it'll come around. But doesn't seem like to be that way. I can't tell from feedback from the new rebalance, right? But
Mm.
uh,
Yeah. I mean, the crazy thing is that there's like 40 plus classes, right? There's
Mm.
always there has to be someone at the bottom. There has to be a worst class. There has to be a best class. Like, um, that's kind of the nature of it, right? Not everyone's gonna be happy, no matter what.
Yeah.
no
Um,
one's gonna be satisfied with what Nexon does.
right,
That's all it comes down to. I
right,
mean, even in PC Maple, no one's satisfied.
yeah,
There's always crap going on, riots, all that, whatever, rigged
no,
rates, that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Never games never balanced.
It's every game, right? There's,
Yeah.
like, yeah. What do you guys have any predictions for what's coming next? Do you think there's gonna be um any sort of changes you're looking forward to before V4?
I'm not actually expecting much changes. Like I'm looking at KMSM's progression, like the updates, and it doesn't seem like they're doing much updates other than the new bosses that they have out and V4. Everything seems so standard, and then they got the rebalances, but we know that our rebalance versus their rebalance is always different, so we can't really
Yeah,
gauge what we're getting and what they have. So
yeah,
as
And specifically for May, I don't see anything coming.
yeah, yeah. Because V4 is probably gonna come June,
June or
July,
July. Yeah,
and they'll, yeah. I heard that in KMSM
maybe a new
V4.
class.
Oh yeah, that probably. I heard V4 with V4 and KMSM, there was all the rebalances too, right? Like they lowered the
Mhm.
cooldowns and the durations. So maybe
Yeah.
it'll just be one big thing. What was I gonna ask? Oh, shucks. I guess the last thing is, what is your guys' initial thoughts on V4 for you guys classes? I know Nightwalkers are gonna be insane. What is Shades gonna be like, Primo?
If it's almost one for what KMSM has, I've been told that it's I can't say it's busted, but it puts them up there.
Yeah.
And from all the videos that I've seen, they're pretty up there.
Mhm.
Is it an active skill or is it another passive? Do you know?
It's an active. It's an actual it's like our 170.
Mm.
Oh,
Oh, it's like a hold down, like that channel skill.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. And what Nightwalkers are? What do you think they're going to be after V4? If you were to predict.
I still think they'll remain like the top 10 in terms of DPS,
Yeah.
but I don't see it dipping. I think we undervalue how important it is to have a self heal. Like I think classes with self heal right now is one of the top few classes because it's I I like to be able to stand in one place and just eat everything and just
Right.
constantly continue, right? Once in this game, I don't know about you, but I feel like the movement isn't as fluid as like PC where you can jump attack really
Mm.
smoothly. And
Yeah.
in PC, like some of the night walking classes, night walking skills, like Omen, you can put it in air. Like you can put it up in the middle of the air and it'll still work. But in this
Mm.
game, Bite and Omen, you have to be on the ground to cast. So it stops us from casting that frequently, and that lowers our DPS because the less you attack, the less DPS you can have. So
Yeah.
I think that right now, as long as you have like having a self heal makes your class a lot better than others that rely on push-ups because if you have to dodge, you already lose a lot of DPS already. We can see that from Damien, right? If you're eating a lot of damage from the orb and you have to dodge left and right to make sure that you can survive and not die, you're definitely losing a lot of DPS compared to a class that can just stand there and just sit there and heal themselves slowly.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have any tips? I think one of the things that um I kind of like about our community that we have is that we've kind of figured out how to, pace ourselves not burn out. We see, burnout is, we see it all the time, right? Do you have any, what do you think works for you, Primo, that like keeps you from burning out or, you know, wanting to quit, right? Do you have any tips or strategies or things that you think helped you?
If you're like buying packages, I would slow down on those because I mean, getting demoralized constantly is not always helpful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like if you're buying those radiant exalt fragments, whatever they call it, and they're failing because they're what 30%. I mean, we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sucks,
Yeah.
but you just have to pace yourself,
Mhm.
right? Right now, I hit my glove, right? I technically I'm trying to rush two, but I've so far passed one, failed two. So
Yeah.
I'm currently stopping right now.
Mhm.
Um and just holding some vessels while waiting for trying to buy a weapon stone
Mm. Yeah.
and trying to finish off seven set Abso, but hey, eventually I will get there. But
Mhm.
What about
and
you?
also it also
Oh no.
sucks that it's hard to get chaos fighters.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with Primo. Like you just can't rush your progression, especially when right now a lot of your damage is also your levels too, because you clearly see when there's a level gap. I had a level gap with one of the top. I think it was he's top three Nightwalker. He used to gap me like crazy, but now that we're like the same level, like I'm not seeing much damage difference. And with my gear right now, it's hard for him to even catch up. So it's like back then we had the same gear and we were struggling, and then once I caught up to his level at an even playing field, we were equal. So at minimum, you have to constantly buy AB and try to keep up your levels to. It's free damage, right? Because the more
Yeah.
level you have, the more arcane symbols you can get, and then the more arcane symbols translate to free PA. I mean, my paladin's like almost fully free to play, and it has 55k PA from like
Yeah.
trash gear, but it has
Almost
high
free to
arcane
play, huh?
symbols, so
Okay.
it's pretty up there. Okay, compared to my Nightwalker, it's free to play. I
Yeah.
only we only started buying the Exalt packages because it came out so frequently, the Radiant Fragment packages, and it's pretty good value. So
Yeah.
can't complain about that. But other than that, it's able to do Lucid and everything fine because of the levels. So not much for me to complain about in that terms.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, one of the things that kind of I took a step back and tried to uh, do other things. Like Legion was a big kind of enjoyment, I guess. Leveling up alts, trying out new skills, right? Seeing new classes was kind of refreshing from just the dailies to bossing and then auto battering the rest of the time, right? And so I think if you're trying to rush DPS, rush gear, like it's
You'll hit a wall.
yeah, you're gonna hit a wall. And like what we talked about earlier is like it's not favorable for newer players or newer classes to hit their peak, no matter how good their gear is. um, Like you're just not able to compete with like the veteran players, right? The players that have been playing it for such a long time. It's just not set up for you guys to do that. So once you kind of realize that like you're never gonna, it's gonna take you a while to get there to your peak, then I think it kind of will um, help slow down the process and help you enjoy the game versus like trying to catch up. But
Mhm.
is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
You know what I'm thankful for being actually like started doing like not almost 22/7 training
Yeah,
because if I didn't do that, I think I've been pretty far behind.
yeah, you guys just recently started doing, right? You guys are just doing hot time.
Oh no, we've been doing 22/7 for a long time now,
Oh, now.
almost like a year and a half.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Wow. Yeah,
I never
that's
stopped training on my alt, so having them
wild.
release Lucid, and then I just plot my paladin
Wow,
all
dude.
into it. It just
Weird
worked
flex,
out
man.
perfectly.
Get my Demon Slayer in there.
Yeah.
Demon Slayer is ready. Yeah. But all right. Well, So thank you guys for doing this. Appreciate it. And
It was fun.
yeah,
That's fun. Thank you.
thank you. Oh,
Oh,
see you guys next time.
see ya.